Welcome, Realm family, to another episode of Wrestling with the Realm podcast. I'm Brian, one half of the Power and Glory of Wrestling Podcasts. And on the other side is the Hercules to my Paul Roma, my guy Will. We're not going to waste any time. This is our Royal Rumble review. Will, go. I know you got stuff that you want to talk about.
Gosh, can I start anywhere?
You do whatever you want to.
It's hard not to start with the shock of the night. I mean, Jey Uso comes from out of nowhere to win the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble.
It's the swerve, bro.
Wow. Talk about a swerve. You couldn't have. I was talking, excuse me, with a few of my friends, and we thought he was like maybe sixth or seventh on our list of people to win this match. Like I would have probably had like The Rock over Jey Uso to win the Men's Rumble, and The Rock wasn't coming out, and I think everyone knew that. Um, I think I was on the right track with a triple threat match involving Roman Reigns and
Yeah.
CM Punk. Now it's just going to be with Seth Rollins. I think that's where they're going towards. I thought a title could have been involved in that, but obviously, the company has a lot of trust in Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they have failed to capitalize on people when they are this over with the crowd. You think about LA Knight in 2023,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was so over.
Good point.
And then just this last SummerSlam, he won his first title, and there's other examples in wrestling, like with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry was so over at the beginning of 2024 and during like that WrestleMania period, and he just won the TNA championship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to make the same mistake. I think there's too much evidence of people being so over that, and they just wait and they wait and they wait. No, I think Triple H is going to give Jey Uso the World Heavyweight Championship. I think
Ooh.
the rub
Oh.
from John Cena at the end
Oh.
helps it even more. I know a lot of people are disappointed that John didn't win. Me being one of those people, I really didn't know what to think when John fell and landed on his feet, and the look of shock was just such a good acting by John. Like it made me believe, like, man, does he really have a chance? Like, is he gonna go to the chamber and win the chamber? But Jay winning the Rumble was a shock. I still don't really know what to think of it. I guess I am a Jey Uso fan. I'm happy for the guy. I don't, he wasn't on my list of people to win. That final three was weird.
Yeah.
Jey Uso, John Cena, Logan Paul. I mean, it was shocking. The whole match was shocking. And I really don't know where you go after this. I guess Monday is going to have to answer a lot of questions. I know you have thoughts on this as well, but
I mean, first of all, we could take all of our predictions and we could just throw those up in the air,
out the
burn
window.
them, do some Harry Potter incantation to turn them into a paper crane and have them fly away because they my wife goes, well, it makes it really unpredictable. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I was like, everything that they did was almost it felt like it was a Royal Rumble for the fans in the way that it was a first time in a really long time, if ever, that I can remember, where I'm actually shocked at the winner. And it didn't seem contrived. There wasn't, any kind of run in from outside that messes with the ending. It's not two guys' feet are almost touching and we don't know who actually went out first. It wasn't anything like that. They actually put something together where I was like, I don't know where they're going to go from here. Um, so I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. Uh, I didn't get to start watching it at the start time. So Will was ahead of me and he wasn't spoiling, but I'm like, Will, let me know when it's over so I know when I can start to look for the replay because I could only go back. So when I started at DIY and Motor City Machine Guns. So I had missed the women's rumble. So I was kind of paranoid through the whole thing. I'm like, please don't tell me what happened in there. And luckily they didn't. They didn't say anything throughout the rest of the event referring back to the women. So that really wasn't spoiled for me. So we had to go back and watch that last. And it was kind of interesting because if you watched it, like for you, when you watch it as a whole from beginning to end and take the whole show as one thing, it's kind of interesting because the women's Royal Rumble, I felt like we were a little bit more on par. I mean, you had Charlotte
Yeah.
Flair. Um, I was going for a swerve with Bianca Belair and swing and a miss. Had a few of those. Hey, we had Alexa Bliss though. We got that right. We got
Yeah, we
Joe
got that
Hendry
right.
right. You got Charlotte Flair right. And then I think that's kind of it. Our final fours fell apart because they kept us guessing. But when you get to the end of the women's rumble and you have Roxanne Perez, who by the way had a great rumble. I feel like NXT had a really good showing
Yeah, they
in
did.
this rumble. Uh, so like that was super positive and it was good to see. Uh, but you get to the end with Roxanne Perez and Charlotte Flair, and you go, okay, well, Charlotte Flair is winning, and she does. And it feels a little anticlimactic because we know Roxanne Perez isn't going to win. It goes back to my Hogan Ultimate Warrior and Barbarian that I always like to use. Barb ain't winning. So then when you get to the men's and you start getting down between Logan Paul, John Cena, and Jey Uso, we're you're going okay. John's winning. Then when you get down to John and Jay, it turns into that same thing where you go, okay, John's winning, and then he doesn't, and it totally subverts your expectations. So they did a great job with that. The final four, like I couldn't believe it. Like when we get down to Logan Paul and Jey Uso and John, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, I couldn't believe it because it looked like everything was coming together how we were talking about it. I was like, yep,
Yeah.
here's our final four. This is where we're going, and then they totally swerved on us. Now let me throw this out because I'm turning into the tinfoil hat wrestling booker where I come up with some wild stuff. We need to start our own promotion, Will, because we got some wild booking ideas. Because I love Jey Uso. Jey Uso is over. Is Jey Uso really going to main event WrestleMania? And I don't mean that with any disrespect to Jey Uso at all, but there's a reason why we're all shocked. Like,
Yeah, I
is
mean,
Jey really going on? Is he really going to be in the main event at WrestleMania?
I think he and Gunther are going to close the night one main event. I think that's just the trust they have in him. Um, is it shocking? Yeah, because this was literally, I, I mean, the greatest Rumble, like top to bottom card wise ever, like 1 through 30. Like there was not a whole lot of misses out there.
Oh, just
I mean, when I Show Speed came out, that was probably a little bit of a miss.
yeah, but
It was what it was. And Jay winning when you have, I mean, we got the moment with Punk, Rollins, Cena, Roman.
yes,
It was confusing. It was at that time, I was like, why is it happening right now and not at the final four? I was like, oh, they're just going to do the stare down again at the final four. And then all of a sudden, Punk double eliminates Seth and Roman. And then Logan Paul eliminates Punk. It was like bang, bang. And then all of a sudden,
yeah,
there's only three people left. I thought weirdly during the Rumble, I turned to my dad. I was like, Dad, why is Jey Uso still in here? Is he
mm-hmm.
gonna win? And he was like, No, John's gonna win. I was like, Yeah, you're right. You're right. John is gonna win. But then when it got to the final two, and it was Jay and John, I just kind of was like, oh, why would they have him stick around this long if they're not going to have him, win? Why would John eliminate? I mean, it doesn't make sense for John to eliminate Jey Uso as the final guy out of the ring. But it was a swerve. I mean, is he going to go on to main event WrestleMania? Yeah, he has to.
Does
It'd
he?
be yeah, it'd be disappointing if the Rumble winner didn't main event one of the nights of WrestleMania.
Okay, let me throw this out there for you. And this is courtesy. I'm going to give my wife a big attaboy for this because, again, as a casual observer, although it was pretty fun last night, it was actually that was a lot of fun with us being able to watch the Rumble and stuff. And she was enjoying it and getting into it a little bit. That's kind of the cool thing about the Royal Rumble, and I think that's probably why it's my favorite pay-per-view because it's so different than everything else that we get. You get such a different look and a different feel, and people get to do different things than your standard format, which makes it, I feel like it makes it more entertaining, especially for casual viewers. Um, but let's say this again, I'm Tinfoil Booker, should be my new nickname. We have John Cena's back for his last year, right? We all know that. We've talked about it. He comes out and he says that I'd have to win Elimination Chamber or Money in the Bank or Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble's gone. He didn't win. So we got two things left on the list. We have Elimination Chamber and Money in the Bank. If he goes to Elimination Chamber and he doesn't win that, now we're all going, oh man, what's going to happen at Money in the Bank? If John doesn't get Money in the Bank, where are we at with that story with John Cena? Let's say John doesn't win Elimination Chamber. That means he only has Money in the Bank left if he wants to try to cash in on something. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like if John wins Money in the Bank and he cashes that in, and that's how he wins that record-setting championship, that doesn't right. That
Be a
that don't
stinker.
doesn't work for me, brother. I don't think that works. So he doesn't win Elimination Chamber. What if something happens to Jay before WrestleMania and Jay can't compete? What do we do? The only fair thing to do would be giving the runner-up to the Royal Rumble the main event spot because
Mm,
that's how the Royal Rumble works.
it is.
John again, he couldn't get there. Is he ever going to win this championship? Just saying that I feel like there's wiggle room there for another swerve because if he doesn't win Elimination Chamber, that means he's not having a main event at WrestleMania, and that means John's last WrestleMania isn't going to be on the main event stage for one of those championships. Just saying, little food for thought. I don't think that will happen, but
No, it's definitely something to think about, though.
it
All
just
right.
and it's not. I don't want to feel like I feel like I'm being hard on Jay by saying that, and I really don't want it to sound that way. It's just really hard to believe with everybody who we have kind of bottlenecked up at the top of the card for WrestleMania that Jay is going to have one of those slots and not somebody else. It still seems weird right now, and I don't know where they're going, but it seems odd if we actually go through with the Jey Uso main event.
You want to know what? Fair statement. It is weird to have Jay win the Rumble and now he has to main event WrestleMania. Here would be kind of what I do. How many times have we told the person on the women's side of the Rumble that they're going to main event WrestleMania and they never do? They are always like the second act, or they kick off the show, or they're the second closing act.
Mm-hmm.
That is not main eventing WrestleMania.
No.
So what if you do have Jay versus Gunther? I mean, that is a solid match. There is a feud there. There's been a feud for over a year there. What if it's the second closing act to Charlotte and Tiffany? Because that is a better feud. It will
Mm.
be a better wrestling match. And that is worthy of closing the show. And then on the other side, you have John, who did, and this is because I just stick around. I watch way too much wrestling, guys. I watched the post show where they do the press conference, and John Cena said that he wasn't going to field any questions. He just had a statement, and that he is going to do what is best for business. He is going to go away. He's going to give everyone a chance to slander his name and talk trash and get ready for the Elimination Chamber, and that he is going to go back to Toronto, like he said when he announced his retirement, and he's going to go kick ass and he's going to win the Elimination Chamber. That is exactly what he said. So I really do think John Cena is going to win the Elimination Chamber. I think he called his shot last night. He was super confident about it. And I think we do get one half of it right. I do think we are going to get John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at
Yeah.
WrestleMania. Because right now, Roman, Seth, CM Punk, unless you do Drew McIntyre Cody, which nobody wants to
No.
really see that, they're all they're all tied up in their own feud. There is no opponent for Cody Rhodes. It has to be John Cena. And that's where I just think that like you can have Jay take that spot and face Gunther. It's like how you had Seth taking that spot and facing Gunther. Like it's not a bad match. There is a feud like lined up in that storyline, so I don't know. It is confusing. It's really why couldn't Jay have won the chamber? That's more believable to me.
I mean, yes and no. I'm kind of with you on that. I feel like this Royal Rumble was really good. Like
It was, yeah.
the post feelings of kind of being confused and everything, that's a good thing. Whatever they're doing, and I've seen some stuff online where people are angry at Triple H and they said that this was the worst Royal Rumble, and I go, I disagree with that totally. I think it was a
Yeah.
really, really good Royal Rumble because you have a lot of questions going in on where we're going to go from here. Like, Vince Russo and his stupid swerve bro is fine, but that only works when you have a decent swerve to use. And I think Jay winning the Royal Rumble is a good swerve because it's not out of the ordinary. And that does seem like an event that I feel like Jay would be poised to win. Like he hung around for a long time, he was involved. It's not like he was Shawn Michaels or Ric Flairing it by just hiding and doing that kind of stuff. Like he was active, and it's a surprise at the end when he wins. And I agree that I think we're still going to John Cena versus Cody. I still think we're going to get to that. I guess I just didn't expect the other side of it with the World Championship to not be involving Punk or Seth on that side,
Yeah,
because
no,
it
that's
feels
very
like
true.
we have the cream always rises to the top, like we got too much cream at the top right now. And throwing Jay in there, it feels like you're throwing too much in there, but we will see. I'm anxious and excited to see where they're going to go from here with that, because it definitely was a huge surprise. And you know, let's also take a moment to say that we don't get broken up about our predictions not being right. We're not.
Yeah.
I'm not too worked up about that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny because I don't know if anybody picked Jey Uso to be winning the men's Royal Rumble. And there's
Yeah.
still a lot of time. There's still a lot of stuff to happen before then. We still have a favor from CM Punk that we don't know what went on with that. We have, Seth Rollins snapped at the end. So, by the way, let's give a kudos to Paul Heyman, really working on the ground. Really on the ground. This is where you would do it. Like he was really selling for the stomp that Seth gave to Roman, and I was like,
Yeah.
I love that he's over there still selling for it. It was really good. That's why he's so great. He was really selling just how dare you? Why would you do this? And it's like, like Roman's never done anything dastardly before, but he's all broken up that Seth had the nerve to do that. I love wrestling. It's so silly.
Yeah. Um, okay. I do have a question, but I'll
Mhm.
circle back, leave it for the end. Um, we can move on to the women's rumble because the men's rumble, I think we're all kind of just like, still kind of in shock about. But the women's rumble, Charlotte Flair's your winner. I don't think there is any surprise there. I'd say the biggest surprise of the night was no Jade Cargill and no
Yes,
Becky Lynch.
that
That was
shocked me.
odd to
Yep.
me. Um, I I mean, I know Becky's under contract. I know Jade's under contract for sure. Why were they not there? I feel like you didn't progress many storylines like you could. I know you were in the Women's Rumble Matrix in our last episode, but like how do you not progress storylines like you I mean, it was a huge potential to do so in this
Yeah.
match, and you didn't. You didn't do a whole lot. I mean, I'd say the biggest storyline I could see coming out of it is Liv Morgan eliminated the returning Alexa Bliss, and I could see
Mhm.
that being a feud
Yeah.
going into WrestleMania.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
we also got, I feel like um, we were also continuing a little bit of the Naomi, Bianca Belair v. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez,
yep,
your predicted uh, championship that Liv and Raquel Rodriguez will be seeing soon will be the tag championship. Um, I feel like they were kind of throwing that around a little bit in there.
Jordan Grace came in the Rumble,
Yep.
and she lifted up Piper Niven and hit her. I mean, huge feat of strength. I know it wasn't exactly the eliminations you were expecting for Jordan Grace or the time,
Hmm.
but she looked great in the
Yeah,
Rumble last night. She showed out.
she looked great. My wife loved her. She was like,
Yeah,
I'm pulling for her. Just whatever she has going on, I think she kind of draws people to her and makes you want to root for her. And she had some big spots, and I feel like they were getting their footing with that. I feel like a lot of the things that we were kind of talking about, they were kind of dabbling in, but didn't go as hard as we thought. That's like the Jacob Fatu Braun Breaker. It was there. They definitely had that moment where we had that great camera shot, by the way, that the ringside camera had for that. I can't remember if it was Jacob in the foreground and Braun over his shoulder or vice versa, but it was a great shot that they had. And it was just like, yep, everybody's been thinking this. And that got a good reaction from the crowd because people want to see those two go. So I feel like they hit on that a little bit, not as much as we thought. But you're right with Jordan Grace. I feel like that was kind of the same thing. They were dabbling with that. Uh, but yeah, it just I feel like Io Sky and Liv Morgan both had a really good rumble. They were in there for a long
yeah.
time, and all the Liv haters out there, give her some love because that was a feat to do that. I mean that's no easy task to go out there 1 and 2
Yeah,
and last pretty much all the way into the end like they did. That was it was really good.
but I feel like Jordan Grace is going to NXT.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had Julia eliminate
Yep.
her if she wasn't going to NXT.
Yeah. I agree. I would agree with that.
Um,
Yeah. No, I agree with you that Jordan Grace is going to go to NXT. I think that was, you know, I don't think she's long for that world. I think she'll be up to the main roster at a quicker pace because she's kind of getting over. I just think the women's rumble was a little bit more predictable. Aside from got no Jade Cargill, like you said, which was weird. I thought for sure you advanced that story here. It just made all the sense in the world. So that's odd. And then Becky Lynch. We get to number 30, and I go, okay, well, Becky Lynch is going to be 30. And then it's Nikki Bella, and I'm like, okay, I don't know from Nikki Bella. So,
weird. It, AJ Lee, right?
yes.
Same time period.
Okay.
They had a huge rivalry in like that time period.
From what I hear,
Um,
though, AJ Lee was very much ahead of her time. when she
Yes,
was
she
going.
was, and Nikki
Okay.
Bella was a Divas champion for sure. She
So she
was
was a
like,
holdover. Okay.
yeah, she was like, I don't know if maybe some of our viewers are familiar with Total Divas. I don't know if you are, but
I remember that.
it was like a reality TV show for the women's wrestlers at the time. Awful, but she was like the superstar in that show and the person to lead the Divas division back then.
Hmm.
Cool she's back. I don't know. It was a fine number 30, but I guess my question for you is no Becky, no Jade. Are they out of WrestleMania?
No, no way. There's no way that they're out of
That'd be
Wrestle.
crazy.
If Jade is out of WrestleMania, then it makes me more nervous that the Jade Cargill experiment is still not going to plan. Um, which hurts because I think you and I were both on the same page that we were hoping from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania we were going to be able to elevate her a little bit. And if she's not back and she's not part of WrestleMania, then I'm not sure where we go with Jade Cargill at that point
No,
because
me either.
I think that experiment might be over if that's the case. But Becky Lynch, there's no way Becky Lynch is not going to be at Elimination Chamber. No way. There's again, if that's the case, then I don't know what we're doing. And I feel like they do know what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have set things up the way they did.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I feel like the iron was hot. It was time to strike with that Jade Cargill storyline
Yeah.
last night, and they just didn't. That shocked
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you. Becky returning can happen at any time. If Jade were to just return on some SmackDown, I'd be like, um, okay, I guess. Like that's kind of crazy, but I felt like no return from either one of them was shocking. But it kind of got like people were okay with that because Alexa Bliss came back, and that is a
Yeah,
huge return, and people are excited for Alexa Bliss being back.
I'm excited for Alexa Bliss being back. I've been waiting
Yeah,
for that. I'm like, I need this Alexa Bliss to come back so I can see what's up.
yeah, no, me too. I'm excited to see Alexa Bliss. I'm thinking that's a one-off appearance from Trish Stratus. Um, I think there's just nothing for her to do right now. Not saying she can't come back at some point. I know like her last run was pretty good when she had the steel cage match versus Becky Lynch and that feud with Becky Lynch. When
Yeah.
Zoe Stark was like weirdly her understudy, which made like no sense at all. But I think there's still a little bit left for Trish, maybe like one or two more matches. From what I'm hearing, though, Nikki Bella is going to be more of a mainstay. She's here to kind
Really?
of, yeah, that's not
Ooh,
just going to be a one-off appearance.
that's surprising.
She signed a more full-time-ish contract. So I wonder if she has a WrestleMania match. If so, where? There is not a whole lot of room
Right.
because you're still waiting on Becky and Jade to come back, and they need to fill slots at WrestleMania. Um,
Okay, so hitting on no Jade Cargill and no Becky Lynch, and you brought up Trish Stratus, and that it's probably more of a one-off for her. Um, Natalia couldn't wait for her to be out. All I'm saying is, get her out of there. Like I was so excited when she was finally eliminated,
we
but
were too. That's
I
hilarious.
I have to imagine you were cheering and saying just as much as I was with Lyra Valkyria too. I'm like, get her out of here.
Shout out
And then when she
Ivy
finally got
Nile.
eliminated, I was like, yes, good. She's finally gone. Good Lord. I
Yeah.
don't, and I, again, we sound horrible like we're hating on Lyra Valkyria. I'm giving her tough love until she shows me something that makes her so important. I'll change my tune, but boy, was I happy when she got eliminated.
I don't know. I don't know, man. At the same time, I can't like every wrestler. Some of them are just not my my cup of tea. And Natalia and Lyra Valkyria are, no pun intended, birds of the same feather. They are really just the same person to me.
Oh,
And
bro, did you see Zoe? I think it was Zoe Stark who eliminated Lyra Valkyria, and she threw up the dumb hand thing. That I was like, that's awesome.
yeah,
I was like, that actually, I was like,
made me
that
a
was
little bit of
funny.
a Zoe Stark fan.
It
Maybe a
was
little
funny because she mocked her
tiniest
with
bit.
that, and I was like, that was actually pretty funny because it is stupid. So it's funny that she got that thrown at her. That was really funny.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I
think
was
of.
super excited. I know you had to be too. You had to be like,
Oh,
yes, she's finally
I
out.
was hyped. I was hyped
Hmm.
for her and Natalia. Someone, final note on the women's rumble outside
Yep,
of Charlotte won. She looked great. It's
yep.
just what winners do, like Charlotte Flair. They go out, they look great, they have great performances, and that's why she's trusted the way she is. And if you're sitting there like I saw online, and maybe I'm lying too much, and I need to not look there because the reaction for her in the building was great. They were like, "Man, I just wasted an hour of my life just to watch Charlotte Flair win." Come on, people. Charlotte Flair is the real deal. Who would you have win that match? And if your answer is not Bianca Belair, then you'd rather have who win the match? I mean, I know you're a big Liv fan, but putting Liv to win the Royal Rumble would just be weird. That you
I
shouldn't have
I
took
wouldn't
the
have been
title off.
happy with that.
Yeah,
As a
no,
Liv fan, I
exactly.
would have been like, that would have I wouldn't have liked that. So it and this is the problem sometimes with wrestling fans in general. And like you said, if you're online and you're looking, you can't please everybody. And I think sometimes everybody or a lot of people can just be unpleasable. You had Charlotte Flair win. We like the same people a couple of months ago were saying, "Oh, if Charlotte comes back, she'll win the Rumble." And then she comes back and she wins the Rumble, and people aren't happy about it.
Yeah,
And then you have Jay win on the men's side, and some people aren't happy about it. So it's like, right, but if we would have had John win, those same people would have been complaining, going, "Of course, John Cena wins." So it's hard to please everybody, and you have to keep people guessing. But I thought the women's Rumble was just as good as the men's.
yeah,
It
no,
wasn't as
agreed,
shocking at the end, but I thought it was just as entertaining. It was a lot of fun.
agreed. And shout out Nia Jax, all-time
Yeah,
leader in eliminations now, most eliminations in a single match. I was there with mentioning her. I should have just picked her for the eliminations. Nia Nia has been a. I know she was overrated on our episode of overrated and underrated, and we deemed her underrated. We could do it over again. She is so underrated. She has been killing it since she's came back, and just giving her her flowers because there's a lot of hate online for her too.
I would
Nia
agree with
Jax has
you
been great.
100%. I feel like she gets a lot of residual hate for past work, but since I've come in and I've watched her, I go, she does exactly what you ask of her to do out there. I know Jim Cornette gets all worked up about her. Oh, look at her out there. Look at everybody trying to work with her. She doesn't know what she's doing. It's like, okay, Jim. I feel like she's done exactly what they've asked her to do. And I think she's done a pretty good job. I mean, that's like if Jade Cargill came back and she was working better, you and I would be the first ones to give her props for that. I wouldn't hold it against her about her past work. Same thing with Lyra
Yeah,
Valkyria. I feel like sometimes people got to let that stuff go and at least give people their props because at the end of the day, they're performers. And if they're putting in the work and they're getting better, I applaud
absolutely.
that because it is not an easy profession. And if you're putting in the time and the work to do it, it should be rewarding that you get some results. And I feel like she's gotten to that point where we can cut her some slack and say she's been doing exactly what she's needed to
Yep,
advance stories.
I agree with you. Women's Rumble was pretty solid. Men's Rumble also solid. People that are complaining will always have something to complain about. They're the type of wrestling fans that just can't sit back and enjoy what they're watching.
Yeah, I agree.
But moving on, um, I mean, we can talk about really quickly the 2 out of 3 falls match. I don't want to call it disappointing because it wasn't. It was a really good wrestling match. Um, I guess the big thing of note is that the Street Profits came out at the end.
Yeah.
which was definitely a bit
Hmm.
of a swerve considering we thought this was going towards a pretty deadly um
Hmm.
storyline at WrestleMania. It could be a ladder match. I know that's been talked about, a ladder match with all the SmackDown teams, and I don't know, I'm fine with that, but the real storyline is DIY and pretty deadly. So for them to just insert the Street Profits, which I bet they feel like they have to do because they're so talented.
Yeah.
They're such a good tag team, but um I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. I think it was fine. Obviously they're leaning towards a bigger like a six-man tag or something, or like a ladder match with all of these teams in there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was, I know you and I were really, really high on this match, and maybe we were a little too high on it because of what we were expecting. And it was a really great match. It just felt like we never had that shock and awe moment where you get like that 30 or 40 seconds of a back and forth where you're like, dude, that was crazy what they just did. I feel like we
Yeah.
never got to that point. But I feel like with the Street Profits, what they did, what was kind of smart with that swerve again, because they made the tag division universe feel bigger again. Uh, a lot of times you can make stuff feel smaller. I'll give my beloved Star Wars as an example. When you have the Star Wars saga, and then you have all of these ancillary projects and movies that are outside of that main saga, and you run into the same characters. It makes the universe smaller when you do that.
Mhm.
So I think by bringing the Street Profits back in, you're making that division bigger, and you're giving us more to work with and more toys in the sandbox for a storyline. So I think it was super smart because they built themselves a lot more runway that they can use for that division, which I'm all for. I mean, we talked about it last time about how we're both pretty high on the tag division and where
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
going. So I think at the end of the day, with that, I give that, pretty decent marks. It wasn't an A plus, but I give it solid marks for doing what it needed to do. It was entertaining, and it's advancing not just a storyline, but a whole division. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Moving on to the other match we had. Now this one tore the house down. This
Yeah.
was an amazing match. Cody, Kevin, Undisputed Championship, ladder match. It was everything it needed to be right in between the men's and the women's rumble.
Yep.
Um, gosh, to highlight a few of the bumps that were taken, the power bomb that Cody took. I mean, I don't know if Kevin just whiffed it, but man, Cody's whole like neck, shoulders landed
Yeah.
right on that ladder,
It looked
and
good.
it looked really good.
Yeah.
And I'd say that was the lightest of the other two bumps, the fisherman's superplex. Kevin took the worst of it. He
Oh,
smacked his head on that ladder. I mean, he was protecting the champion because that's
yeah.
what good workers like Kevin
Yep.
Owens do. He was
100%.
protecting the champ. He understood the assignment and he made sure Cody took it as nice as possible, and then he took it right on his head. I mean, tough.
Man.
And that Alabama Slam was legendary.
So good. Just hats off to Kevin Owens, man. Man, that dude,
Dog.
that like that is some straight up, I don't want to say Mick Foley. Like he's a mix of Mick Foley, but without the disregard for his own well-being. You know what I mean? Like Mick always had that, but Mick was so reckless with himself that he would do these spots, and you're like, come on, man, you gotta protect yourself too. you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like Kevin Owens is really turning into a modern version of a disciplined Mick Foley. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way against Mick. I think everybody gets what I mean, that Kevin Owens is much more um, in control of what he's doing in these spots. But my goodness, that was a crazy bump at the end. And
Yeah.
he sold it for all it's worth. Like everybody everybody did what they were supposed to. Sammy is out there. What, like, it's kind of silly that Sammy comes running out. Listen, you're both
Yeah,
my
I
friends.
agree.
I want both of you to be okay. I'm just such a nice guy, and I want to see what's going on. And that kind of bugged me. I'm kind of getting sick of Sami Zayn with
I
this kind of
know.
stuff. It's grating. Um, he's got to be very careful because he's getting into Lyra Valkyria acting category. Not that bad, but getting
No.
into that area of the oh no, oh shucks. Um, but KO and Cody put on a show, and I think as we're going through and watching it, you set this up way back when, what with Cody and AJ Styles when he's picking up the stairs and he's showing that aggression that he had.
Hmm.
We're moving closer and closer to Homelander Cody, and they've been sowing that for a while,
Oh
and
my gosh.
we are getting there, and that accelerator is starting to get pressed down on it now. I feel like he's getting more and more unhinged, and I will give the highest regards, not the MVP yet, but CM Punk did so much for that progression in Cody with the promo he did the other night when he was like, I know what it's like. You got to get up tomorrow morning. You got to do this. Everybody's coming for you, and I could tell it's weighing on you. You start to feel it. And I feel like CM Punk helped advance this turn in Cody by doing that one promo where you could start to see it. And in the match last night, you really started to see that with Cody, and it's awesome.
Yeah, when he took both of those belts and was standing on the table and held them over Kevin Owens, who had his head still in the ladder,
Still, yes.
still in the ladder. What a sell. Um, and Sammy was like, kind of like, what is like, come on, Cody. And then he turns around and he starts talking that stuff to Sami Zayn.
Yep.
And it is just, we are getting there. He is going to be a heel by the time it is WrestleMania season.
I think by the time WrestleMania is done and John Cena is oh man, boy. Or if he went roughshod on John Cena and retained, that would be good too. And anything going with that storyline in turning Cody is going to be great. There's nothing
Yeah,
better than the heel turn for a beloved face character, and Cody is going to be it's going to be good when he makes that turn, especially if it's on John Cena, because you have ultimate baby face and ultimate baby face. So and something's got to give there, and it's going to be awesome. He's getting there, and it's fun to see.
yeah, it is. And that brings me to kind of wrap up the episode. Now, my final question for this episode for you. What are we doing for WrestleMania? Give me your night one and your night two. You can even do two matches, one match each. Like, how are we closing the show both nights?
Boy, I still think I still think night. Boy, it's really hard. You're asking me the question, and it's so up in the air now because I feel as though we both
Yeah,
kind of agree we're still getting John and Cody. It's just a matter of where that match is going to fall. We had it night one previously. Now I'm starting to think that could be a night two,
agreed.
especially if we're going to go into some triple threat territory with Punk and Roman and Seth, because now that has to be a main event. But then if you
Yeah,
have Gunther, Jay Uso, it's still hard to say you're not getting Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton. I feel like could be a night one finisher. It's all up in the air, honestly. Everything is still so unpredictable. I feel like Cody and John, but I can't tell you what night that's going to be because I don't know what's going to happen with the other stuff. Originally, we had John and Cody night one and Rock and Roman night two, and that made a lot of sense. But where we are right now, where we stand, I have no idea. The only one I think I'm sure about is Cody and John. Everything else, I have no idea. What about you?
Um, I'm on the same page as you with everything. I think I'm a lot more confident in the Jay and Gunther. I think he was calling out Gunther in the press conference they did. So I think that's where they're heading. I think that's the night one, not the closer. I think Charlotte and Tiffany close night one of WrestleMania. But I guess no, because I think I would do Jay and Gunther as the second closing act to the triple threat match between Seth, Roman, and Punk, and then Tiffany and Charlotte do the runner up on night two to John and Cody because John and Cody have to main event one night, and then you'd have to have that triple threat main event the other one, or else CM Punk would throw a hissy fit, you know? Like that's all he's been trying to do since he came back is all he's talked about is main eventing WrestleMania. And honestly, at this point, that feud deserves it. It really does. For me to not say CM Punk's doing the best work of his career, I'd be lying.
Right.
And the hate between him and Roman and well, not really him and Roman, that hasn't really, came to fruition yet. It will. By the end of this, we're going to be talking about this being one of the greatest feuds in a very long time. And him and Seth, I am bought in. They really like
Yeah.
on screen that hatred. Like no matter where they were in the Rumble match, they were gunning for each other all night. And Roman and Seth, obviously, since the Shield, I think that's going to be a really good payoff. Leaves Drew McIntyre on the outside for sure. Bad dude is on the outs of all of this. It is definitely weird that they couldn't have made it a fatal four way with Drew having ins on like, he hates Roman. He
Hmm.
hates Seth. He hates Punk. Why couldn't you just make it a fatal four way match?
Yep.
Um,
Maybe we will. We're still like that's the thing is that we're not there's so much time to go still in so
yeah,
many
there
different
is.
directions and they just have I mean again it's a good problem to have because you have so many angles that you could work. I mean, we're trying to figure out how you're going to end night one and night two, and we have like three or four different options for each night, and we haven't even talked about Rhea Ripley and where she's going to be on the card because we
True.
don't, so there's so many things that are
True.
still up in the air in so many other directions that we can go. It, again, you got the stupid favor. That has to come in. They mentioned it right at the end before everybody gets eliminated, which was kind of funny that they remind us then. So we still don't know what's going on with that. They still have a lot of runway to get all of these stories lined up for where they're going to go, and I still think that there's more surprises to come. I don't think that this Royal Rumble clarified anything. If
No.
anything, it muddied the water even more than it already was, honestly.
And that's what we said in our predictions video is like we're gonna unmuddy the water a little bit. It's kind of what we were talking about. We were gonna
Yeah.
have direction. Man, WWE does not like giving their fans direction because that's why we tune in every weekend. We can't
Yeah.
miss an episode. So I definitely get why they do it. All this being said, and Dwayne's probably gonna creep around with his bald head and insert himself into the main event somehow, some way. If he ever wanted to just come back, he will. So
That can mess everything up again or make everything so much better again.
probably make it so much better because he is
it's
The
it's
Rock.
kind of wild that we're still hanging on The Rock. But I do feel better that if he doesn't get involved, we at least have a bunch of stuff that I think we can all buy into. Um, Maybe I buy into Jey Uso and Gunther more. It just seems so underwhelming and shocking at the same time because they did the stupid thing. They had Barbarian win. And that's like that's the part that's crazy to me is that they had the oddball person who you really don't think is going to win actually win. It's so surprising.
It was surprising. I mean, Jey Uso's the man. He is really over. He's a huge act. For him to win such a stacked Rumble is still shocking to me, but I don't know. Gosh, they're definitely not going to ever think about doing Jay and Cody. So that we can throw that out the window. So it'd have to be something with him and Gunther. Um, I don't know. I don't know where you go. The waters are so muddied, Brian. I have
Yeah.
no clue where you're. I mean, we're gonna have to do eventually here a WrestleMania card predictions video right now, and then revisit it as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania. Because I just want to see where we're at maybe next week, and after we get a little bit more clarification on everything, and then see where we're at a week away from WrestleMania because it just shows you. I mean, we were talking, what was it? Thursday, and our predictions were, I mean, really nothing close to what happened last
No,
night. And that just
no.
shows you WWE is all about the swerve, bro. And they are just the water, they're into muddying the waters. It's their new thing. Triple H loves doing it. So, um, be on the lookout for that, guys. I really want that to happen. We'll do that video for sure because
Yeah. I just it's so crazy because it feels like you that we could come up with anything at this point and it might be because they're off in so many different directions and it's gotta suck a little bit too to be in that writer's room and in creative where you have Seth, Roman, Punk, John, Cody, and you're going through all of these scenarios and you're like, somebody's getting left out. How do you please everybody and make everything mean something? Like, that's just a fact. Like, that's just a reality of the situation. There's only so many championships to go around, and there's only so many main event slots. And to make it all work and have meaning is really difficult. But that's because they've built so many storylines throughout the entire roster. Other years we've had it where you got really strong stories at the top, but not much at the bottom and in the middle. I feel like they have it almost up and down the card now. And that's got to be where part of that frustration comes from because you're going to upset somebody, not just the fans, but the superstars because everybody wants their piece of the action. And it's wild that Jey Uso won. I don't believe that he's main eventing WrestleMania. I don't want to believe it. I know that's his nickname, and it's been silly up until now, but make me a
he
believer. I hope
he
they
he
do.
he really is the main event now. He is no longer mid-event Jey Uso. He is the main event. Like that is crazy to think. Um, yeah, just my thoughts are all over the place. I know
Yeah,
people are probably like, I've been all over the place this whole episode, but the Royal Rumble was really all over the place. My thoughts are just everywhere. I still really don't know what to think going into Raw tomorrow. So hopefully
yeah,
I'm sure there will be a lot of clarification on what's gonna happen. Um, but until then, Brian, I really don't have any more thoughts on the Royal Rumble. It was just a wild show.
yeah. I agree. That's probably the best word for it. It was wild and unpredictable. I feel, Charlotte was kind of predictable. DIY, Cody, and then the men's Royal Rumble was just crazy. Like it was a good show until the men's Royal Rumble, and I think it made it better with how it ended. But it has the mind reeling, and I'm sure they like it that way. They like all of us not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dave Meltzer is somewhere right now, just coming up with as much as he can to get out there that the reasons why somebody didn't come back and the reasons why they are coming back. Like, he has to be spinning right now because there's no way he thought it was going to be Jey Uso. So good luck, Dave. Have fun trying to untangle this one and come up with some stuff.
Yeah, no, it was just the definition of unpredictable for
Yeah,
sure. Well, especially the men's rumble too.
yeah,
No. And I'd say the most unpredictable thing about the women's rumble is the amount of people that didn't return.
true.
That was
That's
unpredictable.
yep,
It was whole
yep,
night all over the place. My thoughts, as you can tell by hearing me talk all episode, all over the place.
yeah,
Hopefully, we come to you guys next week and we got a little bit more clarification of where everything's going. I mean, it's like you're really taking a superstar that's on the break of doing something amazing and just being like, hey, here's your opportunity. And by the way, it's the biggest opportunity. They haven't used the Royal Rumble like this in a very long time to propel a superstar
yeah,
to the top like they just did. Like Jey Uso was over, but he has always been the guy that just loses big title matches.
yep,
And now you're putting him in a position where he can't lose now.
yeah.
So
and
coming
and
out of
maybe
Wrestle,
that's what the thing is that I need Jay going forward to prove it to me that he should be in that spot,
yeah,
and that could be a fun ride. So, you know, lest anybody think that I'm just coming down on Jey Uso, that's not it. I love Jey Uso, and he's over. I just I want to see a different level of Jey Uso going forward now, I guess is the best way to say it. You won the Rumble, you're going to be in the main event. We're not the only ones. I'm not the only person saying I don't believe it. There's other people who are saying it. So Jay needs to go prove it to us now why he needs to be there. And that actually could be a super fun ride. So actually, I feel a lot better now with us getting to the end of this and kind of thinking that through, that it's on Jay now going forward
to
to
prove it.
go out there and prove it and make me a believer, because that could be a cool story if he can go out there and do that. But it's a lot of pressure on him, and
It is.
let's hope he can do it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And step one of that, throwing John Cena out, throwing him over the top
Yeah,
rope. So that was a big, big make me a believer moment for him.
yeah,
So like I said, it is the road to WrestleMania, and we are very excited to have all of you on that road with us. Um, Leave a comment down below of what you thought about the Royal Rumble. It's always interesting to hear what you guys think
yeah,
because we understand, me and Brian, we get very tunnel vision on our own thoughts, and like, sometimes that's why maybe there was people out there that thought Jey Uso was gonna win, and
mm-hmm.
we need to hear some of you guys in the comments that thought that. So make sure you drop that comment down below. We'll be
Yep.
on the lookout for them.
I think that's all I got, Will.
That's all I got.
All right.
I'm Will. That's Brian. We are the power and glory of the wrestling podcast game. And until next time, we'll
Peace
see
out,
you guys.
guys. We'll catch you later. So I think it was Zoe Stark was kind of laying in the turnbuckle, and she's down, and Liv kind of lifts herself, and she's holding her arms up on the top turnbuckle, and her little feet are stomping Zoe Stark in the chest, and her feet are just little tantrum stomps. It was funny and awesome all at the same time. We had to roll it back a few times because I was like, that is the most adorable move I've ever seen in my life, and it was really funny.